The moon hung high, glowing silver over the midnight pack grounds. Drums thudded in the distance, a heartbeat that seemed to echo through the forest. Tonight, under the goddess's gaze, bonds would be tested and sealed. Elara stood barefoot on the stone dais, her white shift fluttering in the cold wind. Her hands trembled at her sides, her heart a wild rhythm beneath her ribs. She had dreamed of this moment all her life, the night her mate would step forward and claim her. And in those dreams, there had only ever been one name on the priestess's lips: Alpha Thorn. He was everything she wasn't: powerful, commanding, beautiful in the way storms are. Raven black hair, sharp jaw, and those golden eyes that always seemed to look straight through her. She was just an Omega, ordinary. But when the priestess announced their bond last week, the pack had erupted in whispers. An Alpha and an Omega. Some called it fate, others a mistake. Now, beneath the full moon, it was time for him to speak. Thorn stepped forward, cloaked in dark fur and pride. He didn't smile. He didn't even look at her. His voice was cold, almost too calm. "I reject this bond." Gasps cut through the night air like knives. Ara's breath caught. Her wolf whimpered inside her. "You what?" Thorn turned to the gathered pack. "I won't bind myself to an Omega when my pack needs strength. I've chosen Mara, daughter of Beta Ryland." This bond was a mistake. The pain hit like a physical blow, sharp, raw, unrelenting. Her wolf howled inside her as the bond began to unravel, invisible threads snapping one by one. Her knees threatened to give out, but she stayed standing. She wouldn't give him that. Mara stepped forward, smug and radiant, slipping her arm through Thorn's as if she had already won. Maybe she had. The priestess said nothing. The moon stayed silent. Elara swallowed the scream rising in her throat. She turned and walked off the dais, eyes fixed ahead, burning. Past the torches, past the whispers, pity and judgment alike. She kept walking into the trees. The air grew colder, the forest darker. Branches curled like fingers, shadows shifting with a whisper. "He rejected me, then let me have you." The voice wasn't her wolf. She stopped. Her breath hitched. At the edge of the clearing, a figure stood wrapped in black and silver light. Tall, unmoving, eyes like moonlit ice. Not wolf. Not human. "Elara," the voice said again, deep, ancient, gentle, and then it was gone. But something in her had changed, and without looking back, she stepped into the dark. Chapter 1. Cast Out. The sun never rose for Elara that morning. She sat by a stream, arms wrapped around her knees, her dress soaked in dew and dirt. Her bare feet were scratched from thorns. Her hair clung to her cheeks, wild from sleep and tears. She hadn't shifted back since leaving the ceremony. Her wolf was quiet now, too quiet. A rejection did that. She should have felt something: anger, shame, grief. But inside, she was a hollow shell. Her chest was numb, and her thoughts floated like leaves on cold water. "I reject this bond." The words echoed in her head over and over again. Each time it stung a little more, like a wound being peeled open again. Her mate, her destined, moon-gifted mate, didn't want her. What did that say about her? A branch cracked behind her. Aura didn't turn around. I know you're there, she whispered. A soft shuffle, then another voice, one she knew. Clara, her only friend in the pack, the healer's apprentice. Come back, Clara said gently, stepping closer. You can't stay out here. Didn't move. He rejected me in front of everyone. I have no place in the pack. You do. We all saw how wrong it was. No, said, her voice breaking. You saw how right it was. Thorn chose strength. I was just an error. Something to correct. L. I felt the bond, Clara. Her fingers curled into the dirt. My wolf did too. We were drawn to him like he was home. How could the moon be wrong? Clara crouched beside her, eyes full of pity. Maybe it wasn't the moon that was wrong. Maybe the wolves just don't understand her will anymore. Aura blinked at her. But before she could respond, a howl echoed in the distance, low and long. Not a call of danger, a warning. They'll come looking for you soon, Clara said, worry in her voice. And not to bring you back. You broke the sacred order by walking away before the pack's final blessing. They can take what's left of my bond and burn it. Aura muttered. Aura, listen to me. Clara grabbed her hands. Leave now, don't wait. Go where the wolves won't follow. Go east, past the boundary stones. Aura stared at her, confused. That's cursed land. Clara only gave a sad smile. Or maybe it's just free. She pressed a small leather pouch into Aura's palm. Inside was a chunk of dried meat, a flask of water, and a silver crescent pendant. For protection, Clara said. Aura stood slowly, legs trembling. She hugged her friend tight. Thank you. Clara nodded and disappeared into the trees. Aura turned toward the forbidden woods. The air there was colder, still watching, but she was no longer afraid of being lost. She already was, and something deep inside whispered that whatever waited out there was waiting for her. Chapter 2. Into the shadows, stepped over the boundary stones. The moment her foot crossed the invisible line, the air changed. The forest grew still, like it was holding its breath. Wind stopped. Leaves didn't move. The trees themselves stood taller, older, as if carved from forgotten gods. Every instinct inside her screamed to turn back, but she kept walking. A low fog crawled over the ground, clinging to her ankles. The air smelled different, richer, spiced with something sweet and burnt, like crushed herbs and firewood. The bird song faded behind her, swallowed by silence. Her wolf stirred, not in fear, but in curiosity. The deeper they went, the more she felt watched, not hunted, but observed, like something knew her name, like it had been waiting for her. Still, she moved forward, pushing past gnarled roots and thorny vines. Her dress caught on a branch and tore. She didn't stop. Her skin stung, scratched by the wild, but she didn't slow. Then she reached the ruins. They appeared out of nowhere, massive stone arches buried in vines. Half swallowed by the earth, a crumbling staircase led down into shadow. The fog thickened around the base. Aura paused at the top, heart pounding. Her breath curled into mist. A whisper reached her ears, so faint she wasn't sure it was real. Come to me. She gripped the silver pendant around her neck. Clara's gift burned warm against her skin. Aura took a step down, then another. The darkness grew heavier, more alive. Not evil, but powerful. Her wolf didn't flinch. In fact, It pressed forward, restless. Halfway down, the hairs on her arms stood. She wasn't alone. "Who's there?" she called. Silence. Then a shape moved in the fog. Tall, still, then eyes. Not wolf eyes, not human, silver, glowing like twin moons in the dark. Aura froze. The figure stepped closer, slow and sure. His presence filled the air, ancient and quiet like midnight itself. He wore black armor laced with silver, a cloak like smoke drifting behind him. His skin was pale as ash, but warm like fire beneath it. Horns curled from his temples, sleek, elegant, not monstrous, but regal, beautiful in a terrifying way. Her heart slammed against her ribs. "This is no wolf." "You are not afraid," he said, voice deep and calm. It wrapped around her like velvet. Ara's mouth was dry. "I should be, but you're not." He stepped closer. She didn't move. The pendant flared against her chest, and he looked at it. For a heartbeat, something passed over his expression. A flicker of recognition. "I've seen you," Elara whispered. Realization flooding her. "Last night at the edge of the woods." "I've always seen you," he replied. "The wolves may have rejected you, but the shadows never did." "Who are you?" He tilted his head, silver eyes softening. "I am Dion, Prince of the Forsaken Flame." And when he looked at her again, her wolf didn't whimper. It purred. Chapter 3. The Prince of Shadows. Alar stood still. Her breath caught between awe and fear. The air around Dion pulsed with heat and power, but it wasn't cruel. It was ancient, alive, and something deep inside her, something wilder than her wolf, stirred like it recognized him. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Prince of what?" Dan's lips curved, not quite a smile. "The Forsaken Flame, but names lose their meaning out here." She tightened her grip on the silver pendant. "Are you a demon? Does that frighten you?" Era hesitated. "No. Should it?" His gaze deepened, searching. "Most would have run, even most wolves." "I've already been cast out," she said, her tone sharper than she meant. "By my mate, my pack. I've got nothing left to fear." Dion stepped closer, and the space between them grew electric. They were fools. You were never meant to be theirs. Ara blinked. "You don't even know me." "I know enough. I've felt your presence for moons. I've watched you at the edge of the veil, aching to be seen. You are not weak. You are waking." She swallowed hard. "Waking into what?" He reached out, not touching her, like close enough that she could feel the heat of his palm. His voice dropped to a velvet whisper. "Into what the moon goddess truly made you." Her chest tightened. The moon chose Thorn. The bond was real. Dion's expression hardened, silver eyes flaring. That bond was a mistake of men, not of the divine. You were meant for more than an alpha's pride. The pendant on her chest grew hot. The silver glow pulsed, matching her heartbeat. She looked down, startled, but Dion didn't flinch. In fact, he watched it with something close to reverence. "That charm carries old magic," he said, his voice thoughtful. "Witchcraft laced with the moon's protection." Air's thoughts raced. "Clara gave it to me." Dea nodded. "She's tied to the old bloodlines, then she gave you a key." "A key to what?" He turned from her, his cloak billowing behind him as he strode deeper into the ruins. "To remembering who you are." Alla hesitated for a breath, then followed. The deeper they went, the more the ruins changed. Shimmering runes along the stone walls, staircases that spiraled into places untouched by light. But it didn't feel dead. It felt like the world was exhaling, welcoming her. He led her to a chamber lit by a single flame floating in midair, violet and gold. It flickered, then flared as she stepped in. Dayan turned to her, his voice low. "Tell me, Ara, when you were a child, did you ever feel the pull of fire more than the moon?" She froze. She had. He stepped closer, gaze intense. "That's because you are not just wolf-blooded. You are something far older." Her heart raced. "What am I?" He lifted her chin gently. "Mine." Chapter 4. A Bond Beyond Blood. Ar's breath caught at his words. "Mine." The word echoed through her like thunder rolling over still water. Her wolf didn't bristle or growl. It shivered like it had heard something holy. Dan didn't touch her, but the space between them thrummed. Every inch of her body was suddenly aware of him. The warmth of his power, the low, steady rhythm of his breath, the way his silver eyes never left hers. She swallowed hard. "You don't even know me." "I know enough," he said, voice low. "I know your pain, your strength, and your fire." "I'm not fire," she whispered. "I'm just broken." His expression shifted, eyes glowing softly. "No, you are forged. Rejection didn't shatter you, it revealed you." She stepped back, heart pounding. "This doesn't make sense," she said, her voice shaking. "You say I'm not just a wolf, that the moon didn't make a mistake. But why would I be tied to you?" Dion moved slowly, never breaking her gaze. "Because I'm your true mate." The words stopped her like ice to the chest. "No," she breathed. "That's not possible. I already had one. I felt the bond. You felt the echo of a bond formed by surface blood." Dan cut in gently. "But the deepest bonds, they don't begin with the flesh. They begin with soul fire. And your soul knows mine." All stared at him. Something deep inside her did know. Not in a way she could explain, but in the way flames know to rise, in the way wolves know to howl at the moon. Still, fear tangled with her thoughts. "But you're not a wolf. How can this be real?" Dion tilted his head. "The moon goddess made wolves, but she didn't stop there. She made fire, shadow, sky. She made me." Alar's lips parted. "You're saying she created demons?" "No," Dion said quietly. "She created balance. I was born of her fire, cast into shadow when my kind fell, but I still carry her flame." The violet fire in the chamber flared again, bathing them in light. Elara stepped closer, without realizing it. Her voice trembled. "And I carry it too." Dion nodded. "You felt it your whole life, haven't you? The way your anger burns hotter than others. How your wounds heal faster than most. How your wolf always felt different." She had reached out slowly, fingers brushing the floating flame. It didn't burn. It welcomed her. A warmth spread up her arm, across her chest, curling around her heart like a promise. Her wolf didn't speak, but it sang. When she looked back at Dion, he was watching her with something close to wonder, like he hadn't believed she'd actually touched the fire. "I don't understand all of this," she whispered. "You don't have to," he said. "Not yet, but the bond is waking." All stepped closer, their bodies nearly touched. Her voice was barely audible. "And if I accept it," Dion's hand hovered near her cheek, "then you won't just belong to me, Elara. You'll belong to something that can never be taken again." Outside the chamber, The ruins trembled. Something ancient had awakened. Chapter 5. The Alpha Returns. The air in the forest howled. Alpha Thorn's boots pounded the earth, his beta trailing just behind, eyes sharp and weary. Thorn hadn't slept, not since vanished. She was supposed to be gone, forgotten, rejected. So why did his wolf scream for her like a wound that wouldn't close? She crossed the border, Beta J said, kneeling beside the shattered stone markers. South edge last sense cold, but it's mixed with something else. Thorn knelt beside him, nostrils flaring. Era scent, earthy, floral, wild, still burned into him like a phantom limb. And something else, something wrong. A scent that chilled the blood. Ancient fire, ash, a male presence so dark and heavy. It made Thorn's wolf bare its teeth. She went into the ruins, Thorn said, his voice hard. Where the shadows sleep. No one comes back from there, Jace muttered. They say demons walk that land. Thorn's jaw clenched, his fingers curled into fists. He never should have let her leave, but she was weak, soft-hearted, slow to shift, more human than wolf. That's what he told himself when he rejected her at the moon ceremony. It had been the right thing to do. The pack needed strength, needed power, and the Crescent Princess offered both. But now he couldn't stop remembering Allah's eyes as he turned his back on her. That silent pain, that quiet betrayal, it noted at him. Worse than guilt, worse than pride. Get the warriors, Thorn said, standing. We ride by nightfall. Jace's eyes widened. To the ruins. That's suicide. She's mine, Thorn growled, his voice laced with possessive fire. I made a mistake. She doesn't belong in that cursed place. Jace hesitated. You rejected her. That bond's broken. If she finds another, she won't, Thorn snapped. She can't. But even as he spoke, a strange unease coiled in his gut, because the bond felt different now, like it was fading, or worse, replaced. He shook it off. Ara was his. He'd mark her again, fix it, bring her home before she forgot what she was. He didn't know that far below the ruins was no longer waiting. She was awakening. Far beneath, Aurora stood beside Dean as firelight danced along the walls. She gasped. Pressing a hand to her chest, a sharp sting burned through her heart. Dean turned sharply. What is it? She looked up, eyes wide. The bond with Thorn. It's pulling. He's near. Dion's expression darkened. He dares? Why would he come now? She whispered. He cast me out. He chose another. Dion stepped closer, shadows wrapping around him like armor. Because he knows what he lost, and now he wants to claim it again. Ara trembled. But it's too late. His voice dropped to a promise. Yes, because you are no longer his to claim. He held out his hand. This time, Ara didn't hesitate. She took it, and the chamber flared with light. Chapter 6. Fire Meets Fang. Ara stood at the edge of the ruins, the violet fire dancing just behind her. The pendant on her chest pulsed in warning as the wind shifted, carrying with it a scent she hadn't smelled in days. Pine, smoke, steel, thorn. She stiffened. Dion stepped beside her, calm but alert. The shadows at his back writhed like they sensed danger. He's here. She nodded, chest tightening. I feel him. Dion's voice softened. But do you want him? Aura turned to him slowly. I don't know what I want, she admitted, but I know who I'm becoming, and I won't let him steal that from me. A howl shattered the trees. Moments later, Thorn stepped into the clearing, flanked by 4 warriors. His gaze locked on Aura like a predator finding prey. Aura, he said, voice low. Her wolf flinched, but not in longing, in warning. She straightened. You shouldn't be here. He took a step forward. You disappeared. You crossed into forbidden land, into his land. His eyes flicked to Dion, burning with disgust. You don't belong with monsters. All's lips curled. You think I belonged with you? The male who broke the bond for a crown? Thorn's jaw tightened. I made a mistake. Dean moved forward, slow and deliberate, like a storm creeping across the sky. And now you think you can unmake it? Thorn growled. She's my mate. Dean's silver eyes gleamed. Not anymore. Power surged between them, Thorn's wolf rising, Dean's fire flaring in silent challenge. Aura, Thorn said, ignoring Dion, come back before it's too late. Aura looked at him and felt nothing. No heat, no bond, no pull, just ashes. You rejected me in front of the entire pack, she said softly. You made me feel like I was less than nothing. I did it to protect you, he snapped. You were too weak. I wasn't weak, she cut in. You just couldn't see what I was becoming. She stepped toward him slowly, her pendant glowing between her collarbones. You see it now, don't you? She whispered. You feel it. The bond you thought would stay broken is gone because something stronger took its place. Dion moved to her side, not touching, but close enough for the heat between them to speak louder than words. Thorn snarled. His wolf flashed in his eyes. You've been bewitched. He's a demon, and you're a coward, Dean said calmly. She deserves more than a title. She deserves a mate, one who never doubts her, never throws her away. The fire behind Aura roared. Her pendant shone bright as moonlight. I choose him, she said, voice clear and fierce. Not because he saved me, but because he saw me. Thorn stared at her like he'd been struck, and in that moment he knew he'd lost her. Not to darkness, but to destiny. Chapter 7. The night the moon shifts. The full moon rose high above the ruins, washing silver light across crumbling stones and wild vines. The wind whispered secrets through the broken halls, and deep beneath the earth something stirred. Aura stood at the temple threshold, the pendant at her neck glowing like it had a heartbeat of its own. The energy inside her was shifting, stretching. Her wolf wasn't just restless. It was awakening into something more. Beside her, Dion watched the sky. His arms crossed over his chest. Tonight, he murmured, your path changes forever. Alla turned to him. Because I chose you. No, he said, meeting her gaze. Because you chose yourself. A beat of silence passed between them, heavy with emotion. And then, with slow grace, he stepped closer. You were born under a fractured star, marked by fire and moon. Do you know what that means? She shook her head. It means you're both. Not just wolf, not just woman. You are hybrid. You are flame and fang. And tonight your soul will prove it. Alla's breath caught. What happens if I fail? Dion's hand rose, not to take, but to offer. Then I'll be there, even if you fall. She didn't need more than that. She placed her hand in his, fingers sliding into his like they belonged. A pulse of energy surged through them, the fire between their palms flaring to life. Purple and silver, moonlight and shadow. It circled them in a slow spiral, wrapping around their wrists like a vow. Elara gasped, her knees buckling. Visions crashed into her mind. Thorns, cold rejection, the burning ruins, her wolf howling beneath her skin, a crown of fire, eyes of silver. "Breathe," Dean said softly. "Let the moon see you. Let the flame know you." She opened her eyes, and they were glowing. Not gold like a wolf's, but violet, the color of both realms. A new howl ripped through the forest, one she didn't recognize. Low, guttural, hungry. Dan turned sharply. "They're coming." All blinked. "Who?" "The ones who fear what you are becoming," he said, shadows curling protectively around them. "Not Thorn. Others. Old blood. Old enemies." Alar's heart pounded, but this time she didn't shrink back. "Then let them come." Dion's eyes gleamed, proud, fierce, and beneath it all, utterly smitten. "You truly are a queen of both worlds," he whispered, "and I will burn kingdoms to keep you standing." The temple behind them pulsed. Magic thickened in the air. And above, the moon dimmed, just for a moment. It was enough. All tilted her head to the sky, and for the first time she howled. It wasn't a wolf's cry. It was something deeper, wilder. A call from flame and blood, from shadow and star. The beginning of a reign no one expected. Chapter 8. The Council of Ash arrives. The air thickened like a storm, waiting to break. Elara stood at the temple's edge, still breathless from her howl. The raw magic in her blood, humming with power. Dion hadn't moved from her side, his gaze fixed on the dark horizon. "They heard it," he murmured. Ara's fingers tightened around the edge of her cloak. "The ones you warned me about." He nodded slowly. "The Council of Ash, guardians of the old boundary. They exist to keep realms apart. Wolf from shadow, flame from moon. Your awakening threatens that balance." Before Elara could reply, the earth trembled. From the tree, 3 hooded figures emerged. They walked without sound, their robes made of ash-gray silk that seemed to drink the light. As they stepped into the clearing, even the firelight dimmed, shrinking from their presence. The lead figure stopped a few feet away. Though his face was veiled in shadow, felt the weight of his eyes pierce her chest. "You summoned the old howl," the figure said, voice like wind scraping across bone. "That right belongs to no living soul." All stood tall despite the cold crawling up her spine. "I didn't summon it. It came when I chose to stop hiding." The second figure tilted her head, a woman's voice brittle and cold. "She carries both bloods." "That's not possible." "Unless," the third hissed, "she's the one the flame warned of." Daon stepped in front of Elara, his voice low and commanding. "She is not yours to judge." The leader's eyes narrowed. "And you, exiled prince, were never meant to return." "I returned because she called me," Daon growled. "Because fate did what your laws could never control." "You are a demon," the female said. "She is Wolfthorn. This union violates the accords. It cannot be allowed to bloom." Ara's patience snapped. She stepped forward, her pendant flaring bright enough to make the council flinch. "I am not your mistake to erase," she said. voice like thunder cracking through frost. I am not just wolf. I am not just flame. I am something new, something chosen. And if that scares you, good. The leader's robe shifted. You'll bring war. Maybe, said, but I'll also bring freedom. No more borders. No more shackles. No more mates who throw girls away because they don't fit your mold. For the first time, the council stepped back. She has claimed the forbidden bond, the third whispered. She has become the forbidden bond, Dayon corrected with quiet pride. And your world will change because of her. The council vanished into ash, gone without sound, without warning. But their threat remained. Elara exhaled, her heart racing. They'll come again. Yes, Dayon said, with armies. She looked at him. Then we need allies. He nodded, and we'll find them. But first, his fingers brushed hers. You must finish your transformation. Chapter 9. Trial by Flame and Moon. The chamber beneath the ruined temple pulsed with ancient energy. All stood at the center of a glowing sigil carved deep into the stone. Lines of molten gold and silver swirling around her like a living map. The air crackled with heat and moonlight. Dan stood outside the circle, his expression grim but steady. Steady. This isn't a ritual, he warned. It's a trial. You'll face what lives in your blood and what your heart fears most. Ara's throat tightened. What if I fail? He didn't lie. Then you won't come back. Not the same, or not at all. Her hands trembled as she reached for the pendant around her neck. The gift from her mother. The last trace of a pack that had cast her out. Slowly, she unclasped it and handed it to Dayon. Keep it safe. If I don't come back, you will. His voice broke through her doubt like steel slicing fog. You are not that girl in the woods anymore, Elara. You are flame. You are moon. The sigil flared, bright and blinding. Ara's breath caught as the ground seemed to vanish from beneath her. She was falling through time, through memory, through blood. And then she was standing in the middle of a burning forest. Flames roared around her. Yet she felt no heat on her skin. Her wolf paced inside her mind, growling low. This is not real. But it was real enough when the first shadow stepped out of the fire. It was Thorn. No, not quite. A twisted version, eyes black, claws bared, wearing his rejection like armor. You were nothing, he snarled. Weak, unworthy. Ara's heart pounded, but she didn't back down. You already made your choice. You don't get to haunt me. I am you, the shadow hissed. I'm every time you believed you weren't enough. She lifted her chin. Then let me show you how wrong we both were. The flames shifted, shimmered. And now it wasn't Thorn. It was herself. A younger, bloodied and bruised, curled at the border of the pack's lands. She looked up with hollow eyes. Why didn't anyone love us? Ara's voice cracked. Because they didn't see who we were. Do you? The younger version whispered. Tears slid down her cheeks. She dropped to her knees and pulled her past self into her arms. Now I do. I see you. I forgive you. The girl shimmered, then dissolved into silver dust. The flames roared upward, and the darkness broke. Elara opened her eyes back in the chamber, gasping. Her hair shimmered with threads of white and gold. Her irises burned violet. The sigil beneath her feet had turned to solid light. Dayon stepped into the circle without hesitation. Elara. She met his eyes and smiled. I'm ready. Chapter 10. Crown of the Exiled. The storm rolled in over the black mountains like a living beast. Laced with lightning and thunder that shook the very bones of the world, Ara stood on the obsidian balcony of Dian's stronghold, her hair blowing in the fierce wind, a streak of silver now woven into the strands. Her eyes, once the gold of a typical wolf, now held a violet fire that flickered even in darkness. Beneath her skin, her blood hummed with new purpose. She was changed, she was claimed, and the realm had taken notice. Behind her, Dian approached slowly, the weight of centuries trailing his steps. "They've gathered in the lower halls," he said. "The exiled packs, the broken bloodlines, the monsters who were never meant to matter." Ara turned. "They came? They came?" he said, a faint smile tugging at his mouth. "Because they heard your howl." Her heart twisted. Not long ago, she had been cast aside, rejected by Thorn, her alpha, her mate, her entire future stolen with a few cruel words. Now, she stood with a demon prince beside her, and an army forming beneath their feet. "Do they know I'm not like them?" "They know exactly what you are," he said. "That's why they followed you." Ara stepped down into the throne room. It wasn't a grand hall like her old packs. It was raw stone, scorched iron, broken columns, a place meant for outcasts, for rebels, for the ones no one believed in. Hundreds had gathered, wolves in tattered cloaks, vampires with hollow eyes, witches with scorched hands and blood on their lips. None looked like royalty, but all knelt when entered. She stopped short. "They're bowing." Dan's voice was low, reverent. "Not to me, to you." R swallowed hard. "I never wanted a crown." "Then you're exactly the kind of queen this realm needs." He stepped beside her, not in front, not above, beside her, her mate, her equal. One of the witches approached, her voice crackling with fire. "We have waited for one like you. Not wolf, not demon, both. The broken star reborn." Ara looked around the room at the sea of scars, of shadows, of survivors. She lifted her chin. "If I wear this crown, it's not for power. It's for them. For every girl cast out, every bond broken, every howl that went unanswered." And then she said the words that would change everything. "We will not beg to be loved. We will make a world where we are chosen." A roar broke through the chamber, not from one throat, but hundreds. Howls, screeches, war cries. The throne behind her stood empty, waiting. She didn't hesitate. Ara stepped forward and sat. Dian stood at her side, a soft, dark pride in his eyes. Long live the Queen of Fire and Fang. Chapter 11. The Alpha Returns. The wind shifted. Ara stood at the edge of the ruins. The new crown light as air atop her brow, yet her shoulders carried the weight of everything it meant. Behind her, the exiled packs celebrated her rise. Creatures from broken bloodlines, lifting their heads with something close to hope. But the moment the scent hit her, the ache in her chest returned. Pine, smoke, steel, thorn. She turned slowly as bootsteps echoed through the crumbled courtyard. He stepped from the shadows, just as he had the day he rejected her. Tall, proud, and cold. But this time, she didn't shrink beneath his gaze. He looked thinner than before, worn down by battles she hadn't been there to see. His eyes swept over her, taking in her crown, her glowing eyes, the magic in her veins. "You're alive," he said hoarsely. "Disappointed?" she asked, voice steady. "I felt your howl," he said, stepping closer. Felt it through the bond. "There is no bond," she said sharply. "You broke it, remember?" His jaw clenched. It never truly broke. Her hands balled into fists. You threw me away for a princess, for political gain. I made a mistake. His voice cracked now. I thought I was doing what the pack needed, but when I rejected you, I lost everything. She took a step closer, her power pulsing beneath her skin. I begged you to see me. I waited for you to choose us, and when you didn't. She shook her head. I crossed into the shadows. I found someone who didn't flinch at my scars, who didn't need me to be royal or perfect or powerful to want me. Thorn looked past her. His gaze landed on Dion, who had silently appeared behind her, as if summoned by instinct. The demon prince said nothing. His silver eyes burned. Thorn stiffened. You chose him? No, Aurora said. The moon goddess chose him. I just finally listened. Thorn took a breath like it hurt. You're my mate. No, she said softer. Softer now. You were my lesson. Lightning cracked the sky. Wind whipped around them. The realm trembled at her choice. Ancient forces shifting. I came to bring you back, Thorn said. To fix this. You can't fix what you shattered, Ara whispered. She turned her back to him. I don't hate you, she added. I just finally love myself more. Dion stepped beside her. Their fingers touched, not claiming, just anchoring. Thorn said nothing as they walked past him. But as the night deepened, a new storm began to form, one of war, vengeance, and jealous fury. Because some alphas would rather burn the world than admit they lost. Chapter 12. War Beneath Two Moons. The twin moons rose over the mountains, one silver, one blood red, painting the skies in light and omen. The air shimmered with the thick scent of magic and storm. Ara stood on the high cliffs above the valley, her cloak whipping behind her. Eyes walked on the distant horizon. Fires burned in the distance. ... Sorry you mystery. War drums echoed like thunder in her chest. They're gathering, said Naira, the flame witch at her side. Thorn's pack, the highborn wolves, even the princess he chose is marching with them. Ara didn't flinch. They're not just coming for me. They're coming for us. For every wolf, witch, and vampire who no longer kneels. Behind her, the army of the exiled stirred. Beasts and broken warriors forged into something fiercer than legends ever imagined. Dion stood tall beside her, clad in armor laced with obsidian and starlight. I told you, he said softly. Some alphas would rather scorch the world than lose their pride. She turned to face him. Then let them come. The moment their eyes met, time slowed. This wasn't the bond she once knew with Thorn, sharp and cold. This was fire wrapped in devotion, a connection made not by force, but by choice. Dean reached out, brushing a thumb along her jaw. You still have time to walk away. I'm not that girl anymore. Elara whispered. And I'm not walking away. I'm walking through them. The wind shifted again. A wolf's howl rang out in the dark. It was distant, but close enough to feel. The enemy was near. All turned to the army below. Hundreds strong now. Shifters, demons, witches, even banished seers and spirits. They watched her, not with blind loyalty, but with shared purpose. She raised her voice. I was born to a pack that threw me out. They stood straighter. I was told I was weak, unworthy, unloved. Growls rippled across the valley. But I found a truth beyond bloodlines and titles. That worth is not given. It's claimed. A wave of energy rolled from her, shimmering like heat. Tonight, we don't fight for revenge. We fight for every soul who was ever cast aside, for every howl that went unanswered. The moons brightened above as if the goddess herself listened. She drew her blade, obsidian forged with moonlight and shadow flame, and lifted it high. Let the packs remember our names. A roar exploded from the army. Dan leaned in close, his breath warm against her ear. Lead them, Ereve, fierce, trembling smile. Let's show the world what happens when the rejected rise. And with that, the Queen of Fire and Fang led her army into the dark, toward the valley where fate, fury, and forever would collide. Chapter 13. Battle of the Bound and Broken. The earth trembled. Era's boots crunched against shattered stone as she led the march into the cursed valley. The ancient place where moonlight had once judged kings and queens, and blood had long ago soaked into the soil. Now it would be stained anew. Above her, twin moons lit the sky, one silver, one crimson, a bad omen to some, to her a promise. Behind her, thousands marched, wolves with matted fur and glowing eyes, vampires cloaked in shadows, witches burning with wrath and magic, the cast-offs, the betrayed, the forgotten. Now they followed her, not because of bloodline, but because she had stood broken and refused to fall. At the far edge of the valley, the royal army waited. Regal banners flapped in the wind, gold-armored wolves with proud crests, the so-called elite, and at their front stood Thorn. Ara's breath caught, not in longing, but recognition. He was no longer the man she once loved. His expression was hollow, his stance rigid, and beside him stood Princess Vala, her lips twisted in something smug and trembling with fear. Ara raised her chin. "You came," Thorn called, his voice carried by wind and magic. "I said I would," she answered, stepping forward until only a few yards separated them. "You brought your war. I brought my truth. You've aligned yourself with a demon." Vala spat, stepping forward. "With monsters." All laughed softly. "I am a monster. Your world made me one. Your rejection lit the match." Behind her, Diaon stepped forward, towering and glowing with shadow light. His silver eyes swept across Thorn's wolves like a storm sizing up prey. He didn't need to speak. His presence spoke enough. Thorn's hands curled at his sides. "It's not too late to surrender, Ara. Come back. Stand beside me." Her voice broke, not from pain, but from clarity. "I begged for your love once. I begged to be seen. Now I wouldn't trade what I have for 1,000 crowns." She took a step back and lifted her blade. "The exiled don't kneel." And just like that, the first arrow flew. Screams erupted as both sides clashed. Steel on fang, flame against shield. Wolves shifted midair, colliding with snarls and cries. Magic lit the sky, red and violet and white hot. Ara spun through enemies like a flame giving form, her blade dancing with moonlight. She cut down warriors who bore her old pack sigil. Each strike wasn't vengeance, it was freedom. Dean fought beside her, a beast of old wrath and cold grace. He didn't protect her, he matched her blow for blow. Back to back, two forces, destined to burn and rebuild everything they touched. The ground ran slick with blood. The stars blinked out behind smoke, and still Era moved forward. For every rejected mate, for every cast-aside heart, for every howl that had once been met with silence. Tonight, They roared back. Chapter 14. The Alpha's Fall. The battlefield was a blur of bodies and blood. Era's breath came hard and fast as she dodged a lunging wolf, slicing across its flank with her obsidian blade. She spun, heart pounding, eyes scanning for Thor. Her past, her wound, her unfinished chapter. And there he was. In the center of the chaos, Alpha Thorn stood, crimson smeared across his golden armor, his once regal face twisted in something between fury and disbelief. His sword was already drawn, but he hadn't expected her to make it this far, to survive this long. Era stepped toward him, the crowd parting around them, as if the battle knew what this moment was, what it meant. "Still playing queen?" Thorn growled, circling her slowly. "No," she said, lifting her sword. "I am queen. You just never saw it." He laughed bitterly. "This could have been yours, all of it, if you just waited." She took another step closer, her voice sharp as steel. "Waited to be chosen? Waited to be good enough? No, I'd rather burn." Thorn lunged first. Their swords clashed, sparks flying. He was strong. He always had been, but was faster now, sharper. Pain had honed her. Magic had awakened her. "You would have been my Luna." Thorn growled, striking again. "You were mine. I was never yours," she said, twisting away. "You let go. You walked away when I needed you most." He snarled and swung again. This time she met his blade, pushing back with all the force in her body. The ground trembled beneath them, the very earth reacting to the fury in their clash. "You let the pack think I was weak," she said, breathless, teeth bared. "You never fought for me." And he did. Thorn spat, nodding toward where Dion battled a trio of wolves, his silver eyes never straying too far from her. "A demon? You think that's love?" Alar's gaze didn't falter. "He saw me when I was broken and didn't flinch." Their swords locked again. This time twisted, knocked his blade aside, and drove hers into his shoulder, deep enough to break through pride and bone. Thorn collapsed to one knee, groaning in pain. She stood over him, her breath ragged, her power surging around her in flickers of moonfire and shadowlight. "End it," he rasped. Defiant even in defeat. "Do it." But stepped back. "I'm not you," she said, her voice calm. "I don't need to destroy you to prove I've won." He looked up, blood dripping from his mouth. "Then what will you do?" She turned her back to him slowly. "Let you live and watch the world rebuild without you at the top." Behind her, the battlefield was changing. Thorn's wolves were surrendering, some out of fear, others out of recognition. And Daon was walking toward her, his eyes never leaving hers. The war was ending, but the real beginning was still to come. Chapter 15. Crown of Fire, Throne of Shadow. The battlefield was still. Smoke drifted through the air, like ghostly threads, curling around broken spears, shattered swords, and the fallen. But there was no more fighting, only the hush that came after fury, the kind of silence that waits for something sacred. Ara stood at the heart of it all, her sword lowered, the blood on her cheek already drying. Around her, the warriors of both sides watched, some wounded, some wary, all waiting. She didn't speak yet, not until Dion reached her side. He moved through the valley like night-given form, silver eyes gleaming beneath the twin moons. His dark armor was cracked, blood stained across his collar, but he still walked like a king, her king. "Is it done?" he asked softly, his voice low, careful. Ara's eyes moved over the quiet field. It's over. And now she looked up at the blood moon, her heart thundering. Now we build. A ripple of power rolled from her as she turned to the army that had followed her. Not just wolves, but witches, vampires, and creatures long driven into the dark. I was cast out, she said, her voice rising. Laughed at, abandoned, rejected. A murmur ran through the crowd, but I did not die. I found strength in shadow, in exile. I found love not in the arms of a prince, but in a demon. Dagon's smile was faint, but fierce. I am Elara, daughter of no crown, maid of the forgotten. And from this day forward, the world will kneel to no one who calls themselves Alpha by blood alone. The earth shimmered beneath her as ancient roots stirred. Old magic awakened by truth. A soft wind blew through the valley, then a glow. From the sky above, 2 streaks of light fell, one silver, one crimson. They met in the space above Ara's head and pulsed once before slowly descending. Dan's eyes widened. Ara, he whispered, the moon goddess. The lights wove themselves into a circlet. No crown of gold or metal, but fire and shadow braided together. It hovered above her brow for a breathless moment, then settled. Not burning, not heavy. It belonged. Gasps echoed through the field. Even the eldest wolves dropped to one knee, their heads bowed low. Witches wept. Vampires knelt with solemn silence. Dion took a step closer, lifting her hand gently to his lips. My queen. All stared at the flames in her palm, then at the man before her. This wasn't a fairy tale ending. This was something older, wilder, truer. She reached for him and kissed him, not just with hunger, but with home. The crowd erupted, not in cheer, but in reverence. They had not just seen a war. They had witnessed the rise of something new. Queen Elara of the Shadowbound, Luna of the Exiled, and mate of the demon prince who would remake the world at her side. Chapter 16. A Kingdom for the Rejected. The castle in the Valley of Ashes had once been nothing more than a ruin. Crumbled stone, dead vines, and broken arches. Now, under Elara's reign, it bloomed with life. Golden light poured through open windows as the walls shimmered with enchantments. Wildflowers crept up columns. Stained glass sparkled with the faces of wolves, witches, and beasts long forgotten. And in the great hall where silence once reigned, laughter now echoed. Ara stood at the balcony, her crown of flame and shadow resting lightly on her brow. Below, her people celebrated, not with rigid formality, but joy. Packs mingled with witches. Vampires shared tables with wolves. No territory, no titles, only chosen family. Behind her, Dean approached, quiet as night, powerful as storm. You're brooding again, he murmured into her hair. She smiled without turning. I'm thinking about Thorn. No. She leaned back into him, letting his warmth wrap around her. About how far I've come. About how far we've come. Dion's arms slid around her waist. You could have had it easier. You could have taken vengeance. Let Thorn suffer more. I didn't want revenge, she whispered. I wanted peace, and I wanted to be seen. He turned her gently to face him. Then look at me, because I see you. Their foreheads touched, and for a long moment, there was nothing but breath between them. Shared, sacred. You've built something rare, Diane murmured. A kingdom not ruled by fear or name, but by love, by bond. All's eyes glimmered. I couldn't have done it alone. You didn't. His silver gaze held hers. You were never alone, not really. Down below, the celebration shifted. Bonfires crackled to life. Wolves howled to the rising moons, and children with mixed bloodlines danced like they belonged, because here they did. Ara watched a young girl shift into a wolf with dark fur and violet eyes, then shift back with a shy smile. A witch boy applauded her, laughing with genuine pride. In the old world, they would have been outcasts. In hers, they were treasured. This was the world she had bled for, a kingdom made for the ones no one wanted, a throne carved not from legacy, but from love. I never thought I'd feel safe again, she said softly. Dion touched her cheek. You're not just safe, Elara. You're sovereign. She kissed him slow and sure. No longer hungry to prove anything, just grateful. And when they pulled apart, the sound of the people rose like a hymn behind them. Wolves howling, witches chanting, demons roaring low with pride. All of them bonded by what they'd survived. What now? Dean asked, resting his chin on her head. She smiled. Now we rule together. The wind shifted, warm and fragrant, as the moons hung high, silver and red. No longer omens, but witnesses to the girl who had been thrown away, to the demon who had chosen her, to the love that had rewritten fate. The Alpha had made a mistake, but destiny never had. The end. If you enjoyed listening to this story, please hit the like button, share it with someone who'd love this, and subscribe to Nightbond Narratives, and ring the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Tell me in the comments below which part of the world you are watching from. Also, tell me which part of the story you like the most. Compilation of a video of an audiobook takes a lot of time and effort. So, if you see any ambiguity, please ignore it. I hope you will appreciate my effort.